Dora Neal Hurston, and we say Ashe. Sister Mason, and we say Ashe. We give thanks. We turn light back on if you want to, so I can read this. We give thanks to all of our ancestors who made a contribution to humanity, not just the African community, but to humanity. And we say Ashe. We give thanks this morning for our elders who are wiser, who are experienced, who have life experience and stage of life experience, so that they are sharing with us what we should do. Elders are not olders.
He's good now.
There's a difference. There's a difference, Brother AJ. There's a difference between elders and older. Now, elders can be older, but all olders are not elders. I'm just saying, we got some old fools out there. People that wasn't paying attention and nobody wasn't listening, didn't pay attention to what people said when they was younger, so now they just old, they just old. But in African culture, we venerate elders. We venerate people who like get old and then know how to turn facts and knowledge and statistics and all that into what? Wisdom. Wisdom. Because wisdom is a sign of an elder. So we give thanks this morning for all of them, and we give all of our elders a round of applause. I ask for permission to continue with our elders. Give all the elders a round of applause if you would. So they're rocking that James Brown.
Funky guitar.
Go on and have it. Yeah, see? We give thanks this morning. How's everybody feeling?
Good.
If you feel good, say Ashe loud.
Ashe!
All right. We good. We give thanks this morning for another opportunity just to share a little bit. To be African or not to be. The crucial. This is our spirit word. Crucial nature of culture. We find the text this morning in the Hosea, page 67. You want to read it with me? Page 67. It's from the book of February. This is a book that we find it's in the book of Wise Instruction. There's a whole section of the Hosea and all the other writings that come out of that time period. A whole section that deals with wisdom. Deals with Medu Nefer, the beautiful speech. Because there's Medu Nefer, and then that's beautiful writing. But there's also Medu Nefer, the beautiful speech. And so our ancestors gave us a guidebook for wisdom. And one of the passages, we're not going to read this entire passage, but we're going to start about 6 or 7 lines down where it says, those who are steadfast.
Okay.
Page 67, passage number 2. Those who are steadfast. Y'all ready?
Yes.
Y'all ready?
Mm-hmm. You ready?
Yeah. See, this is how you jam out. Ready? Yeah. Ready? Yeah. Let's read together. Those who are steadfast and thoughtful are chosen among the people, and those who listen to a correction protect themselves from receiving another. Surely the fault in every kind of character lies not in listening. Let's stop right there.
Okay.
Let's read it one more time. We're going to read those 2 sentences.
Okay.
Because sometimes, we give you too much. This is how we're going to get a bite-sized chunk of wisdom. Those who are steadfast and thoughtful are chosen among the people, and those who listen to a correction protect themselves from receiving another. Surely the fault in every kind of character lies in not listening. Ashe. May the Most High give a blessing to those who hear and follow these wise words. To be African or not to be. This is something that Asa Hilliard said, who's now an ancestor. Bob Asa Hilliard was a leading psychologist in the black psychology movement. He's good friends with Dr. Wade Nobles and a whole bunch of other folks that we know and that we've worked with in the past. And Dr. Hilliard, among other things, toward the end of his career as an educator at Georgia State and all over the country, he posed this question. And there was a moment, this is back in I guess it was in the late 80s, 90s, before he passed away, where he wanted to, and Dr. Nobles and other folks wanted to put up billboards in black communities all over the country. And the billboard was going to simply say, to be African or not to be. And with a question mark. And it was going to pose a question.
What happened? We need that.
We need that. We could come back. We could bring that beat back.
What happened?
Yeah, we could bring that back. To be African or not to be. And see, Dr. Nobles wrote a piece after Dr. Hilliard put that out there, and he said, well, he probably, in the speech he gave where he first said that, was really wanting to paraphrase Shakespeare, that notion of to be or not to be. That existential question, that question about your own survival, your own life. And he says that he thinks that what happened was the ancestors kind of interceded, because if he had followed that formula, he would have said to be African or not to be African. But he says to be African or not to be.
That's it.
So this is a different question. Because the fundamental thing is, like, it makes it seem like the essentiality of Africanity for black folks is about our survival.
Yes.
That's it.
So it's not a choice about being African or not, it's a choice about being African or being at all.
That's it.
Okay.
That's a fundamental question.
Yeah.
As we think about this, I want to acknowledge that this is National Women's Month, and we just had International Women's Day, and so a big salute to all of the women who are in our lives. Give them a round of applause. All the sisters, the mamas, the aunties, the tias, the abuelas, to all of them, because without them, we wouldn't get culture. This crucial nature of culture. Usually it's your mama. If your mama's in your life, you know, when you were born and for those early years, it's your mother who basically becomes the deliverer of culture to you. The person who puts you on point about how to be. Sankara gets the benefit of Mama Latrice, but he also gets the benefit of every lap that he gets to sit on. Because part of that, and what Brother Steve is doing with his son, part of that is loving our kids up.
Yeah.
That's part of our culture.
Yeah.
It is.
Dr. Hilliard went to Uganda and did some research there, and what they found was that on an average day, a baby in Uganda was held by at least 30 people.
Wow.
30 people. Now, I've had some of my younger relatives, when they first had their kids, they didn't want nobody in the family to hold their kids. We had a family reunion, and the new baby is there, and my auntie is like, pass the baby over. And then my, I won't even say, my niece-in-law was like, well, no, we don't want the baby to, you know, we just want to keep the baby because, you know, it was never really no explanation. And then the elders in the family was like, girl, pass the baby. And I'm talking about like this, with that right angle of my eye. Double right angle of my eye. Like, you better pass the baby. And we all looking at her, girl, pass the baby. That's part of our culture.
Come on now.
Pass the baby. Pass the baby. Pass the baby. And the idea is that when the more people that interact with that child, people, and we're talking about people who have good intention,
Yeah.
people who have love, people who recognize that our children are sacred.
That's it.
Not they're gonna be sacred, they are sacred.
That's it.
Not they're gonna be divine, they are divine. The crucial nature of culture would suggest that is part of the message that has to be spoken and modeled for our children. It has to be spoken and modeled for adults who care for our children, for anyone who interacts with our children. So when we think about that question, if those billboards go up, to be African or not to be, why is a reinvigoration of African culture necessary for our survival? It's necessary for our self-identity. It helps our culture, helps us know who we are and whose we are and who we're responsible to. Ashe? Why is the culture crucial? Because our character development, how we see ourselves in the world in terms of moral decisions and how we make decisions about right and wrong and going this way or that way and following that notion of set or eschew, that set of choices, that legba. Do we go this way or that way? Our culture ought to inform that. And every day that we don't have an intentional renaissance of African culture, we lose something. Every day. In that period of Zora Neale Hurston and Langston Hughes and all the folks that were working in the Harlem Renaissance, the Renaissance is important. Why? Because we had just come out of chattel slavery. We had just come through the forked tongue aspects of Reconstruction. We're going to give you a little something, then we're going to pull it back. And then we're going to go with Jim Crow. And then we're going to go with lynchings. And then we're going with all of this. So in the 1920s, our ancestors like Zora Neale Hurston and others, they were seeing that this is crucial. That we find black art. That we find black images. That we know our story. That we do the research with the Association of Negro History and Life. That we record this in the journal. They didn't want to lose any more culture. Right now, if you equate this to the environmental issues that are going on, I just saw a story the other day that somewhere, I think it was in Australia, there's a mammal that just went extinct. It's like a little mouse. It looks kind of like a gerbil or something. And you know, some people may think that, well, so what's the big deal, right?
Right.
But for every species that we lose, we're losing some potential for why the Creator put that animal on the earth. Why the Creator put that plant on the earth. It may be some undiscovered treatments for diabetes or cancer that in the plants that we lose. It might be just like we get certain things from jellyfish. We lose that little animal, maybe we just lost something.
It's good, Baba. It's good.
And some people are like, well, what's the big deal? It's just a little mouse.
Uh-huh.
You see, everything in creation got a purpose.
Thank you.
Everything in African culture has a purpose.
Yes.
When I'm talking about the best of our culture. I'm not talking about this R. Kelly part of our culture. I ain't talking about that. I ain't talking about that Bill Cosby behavior part. That is not African culture.
Come on now, Chief.
That's black men doing some things that's not acceptable. But some people try to make you believe that, well, that's our culture. No, that's not our culture.
Teach good, Baba.
That's actually a manifestation of European culture.
Teach.
Because just sounding good, but your behavior is not up to par, well, you know, that's I don't know what that is. Other than white supremacy in full effect.
Teach good.
Don't get quiet on me. I know somebody who likes, you know, Chicago stepping. But there's some other musicians who can play that music. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Culture. Dr. Nobles and others define culture. We're about to have a conversation about culture in this community. Culture in Ile-Omade. Culture and how culture makes a difference. Culture is not the clothes, just the clothes you wear. How you wear your hair, if you have hair.
Shake.
I mean, if I had locks, I'd have been like shaking my locks when we playing. I ain't got no locks. I'm about to hurt my neck. What is culture, though? Culture is important to understand what culture is. And this is from one of our leading thinkers, from our leading scholars. I'm not making this up. This is something Dr. Nobles has said over and over to us. That culture is to human beings as water is to fish.
Shake.
Culture is to human beings as water is to fish. That means that fish don't have to think about the water. It's just there. And it provides them, and they have to be in the right culture, because saltwater fish survive in saltwater.
I was just listening to that lecture.
Yeah. Freshwater fish survive in freshwater.
Teach good, Baba.
You can't put a freshwater fish in the ocean and expect that it's going to live, even though it's water.
Yeah.
So you can't put black people in European culture and expect us to live, because that's for them.
Yeah.
No offense, but that's for them.
Shake.
But if you're not in your culture, if you're not sitting in your values, if you're not sitting in your ethics, if you're not sitting in your attitudes, habits, beliefs, customs, your language. One of the things that Zora Neale Hurston ran up against, as we talked about in the class this morning, was that she was writing in that Gullah dialect and wanted to preserve that language. And some of the other folks who didn't quite get it, as smart as they could have been, they were like, no, we want to hear standard American English.
Right.
We could have lost that dialect had she not written it down.
Yeah.
Just like that little mouse, we probably have some ideas in that Mende language that we probably have lost. The language you cry in. We talked about that a couple years ago. It's a film that talks about the Mende song that was sung in South Carolina, recorded by Lorenzo Turner. He took his successors took that tape all over West Africa, playing the tape and asking people, have you heard this song before? And then they found a woman in a Sierra Leone village that had been destroyed by the Civil War who heard it and said, my grandmother used to sing that song. And then we walk around saying Africans in North America lost our culture. No, we misplaced it.
Wow.
It's like you lose your keys every day. If you're old enough and you ain't got no special key place. Ashe. You didn't really lose your keys, they just misplaced. Eventually you find your keys and you go to your car, you put them in the ignition and you go ahead about your business. Ashe. That's what's going on with our culture. Our culture ain't lost. Our culture ain't been destroyed. We just gotta look for it.
Yeah.
It's been misplaced.
Teach good, Baba.
Culture. Culture includes ceremonies, rituals, practices that are peculiar, and I'm quoting Dr. Nolan, peculiar to a particular group of people, which does what? Provides them with a general design for living. That's what culture does. If you have culture, you don't have to come up with a rule for every single thing that you do in your life. It's your general design.
Okay, come on now.
It's your pattern for interpreting reality. That's what your culture is. It's a system. It teaches you how to recognize the things that are going on around you. Culture has the power to compel behavior and the capacity to reinforce ideas and beliefs about how we function as Africans. Culture gives meaning to reality. Culture is the invisible medium in which all human functioning occurs. Nothing human happens outside of culture, so everything that happens is connected to culture in some kind of way, whether it's positive or negative. Culture is about your total environment. So culture will say, what are its manifestations? Our culture is grounded in truth, justice, righteousness, reciprocity, harmony, balance, and order. If something's out of order, you got to return to the culture. If something's not going well, you got to return to the culture. If something's not happening well in terms of how we're raising our kids, you got to go to the culture. If something's not happening well in terms of how our parents see themselves in the context of our school, you got to do what? Return to the culture. If teachers are doing something that's not in the African field, they got to return to the culture. If the council of elders is making decisions that aren't consistent with Ma'at and then Nguzo Saba, we're off track. We got to come back to the culture. Ashe? Yeah, well, I'm talking to you. Culture is crucial. It's not just about the rules that we set out there. Rules are important. But it's got to be in the context of a cultural renewal. A cultural renaissance. Because that's what the Harlem Renaissance was. And we know the Nile Valley history. When you look at Nile Valley culture, there are plenty of places in Nile Valley history where they said we had to look south. We had to look to our origins. We had to look to Nubia. We had to look up south on the Nile. So we could return to the things that made us great. Even in that society, they had periods of greatness and they had periods where things fell apart. Seems like that's a pattern for human beings. It could be your personal life, things could be going really great. And then things can fall apart. Ashe, here to testify. Everything ain't cool all the time. Everything's cool till it's not. Everything is cool till it's not. You got friends that you good with till you ain't cool with them no more. You got spouses and partners and sitting with others until you ain't cool no more, you cool. And all of a sudden something happened and it tests the relationship. And you got to go back to what was the ethics, what was the behavior that we established, the habits of the heart that were established for that relationship. That's culture. And in our culture, you know, and you can pick any number of people in our history who demonstrate this idea. Muhammad Ali, when he first changed his name from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali, people did not like him. I'm talking about black people. I ain't just talking about white folks. I'm talking about why he changed. Mama gave him that name. Why he changed his name to that bourgeois name. I know what people were saying. And then when he died, he was like one of the most revered people in the world. You see how we do. You didn't like it when he was saying what he was saying. He said, ain't no Viet Cong called me no nigga. People didn't like that. But then after he got, the old man, it's like, oh, he all right. Culture, right? It's not about, and the thing is, in our culture, in our best of our culture, it is not about being popular. It is about being righteous. It ain't about being popular. Because a lot of crazy stuff can be popular. You can take any example out of current media and pop culture. All kind of stuff is popular. That Momo thing that the kids are looking at, it's popular. But it's causing some kids to hurt themselves. Just because it's popular don't make it righteous. Ashe? Culture is crucial. To be African or not to be. Our very survival is at stake. So how do we revitalize our culture? We start doing things that are consistent with our culture. We did the ring shout this morning. As you go moving around and that plant is in the middle, Sister LaTanya passed out a book this morning that had images of Zora Neale Hurston in Haiti. And some of you saw the picture. It was called the Sacred Center Pole. So all of that was happening around that pole. That's our culture. It be in circle with each other, not be in square with each other, be in circle with each other. Ashe? When I was in Brazil back in December, I went to 2 Candomblé houses. Both of those houses, the ceremony, the ritual was around a center pole. And if they didn't have a pole, they just had the center of the room. And they put stuff on the floor, they put markings on the floor, they smudged it up, put some sage on it, some cobalt. So that's our culture. So wherever you look, you'll see it. You just misplaced it. Ashe? You might not have recognized it.
Yes.
You might have had the blinders on, didn't recognize what was yours all along. Where does our culture come from? You have to listen to the ancestors. The fault in every character. What does it say? Surely. They put a little energy on this one in Freeport. They said, surely the fault in every kind of character lies in not listening. Those who are steadfast and thoughtful are chosen. Those who listen, I love this. They said those who listen to a correction protect themselves from receiving another. That means you got to listen. If you make a mistake, that's human. To make a mistake 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, 7 times, that's something else.
Yeah.
You're supposed to make that mistake and then listen to the correction. Sometimes that correction comes from your own heart. You know when you ain't did what you're supposed to do. Ashe. And that wisdom is embedded in what almost any parent who grew up in the South, or mom and them grew up in the South, or grandmom and them grew up in the South, is a simple little phrase. You know better. That's a cultural proverb. You know better. And anybody had to tell you. Sometimes it's just in your spirit because the general design for living in your culture was saying that behavior is wrong. And you know it when you see it. You sometimes use the smell test. If you put some fish in your refrigerator on Monday and don't get around to cooking it until the following Monday, what's the first thing you do? You smell it. You don't look at the date on the package. You might look at the date on the package. But most people go like, I don't know. And then people want to, next in the house with you want to hands up to you and say, here, smell this. Tell me what you think. And I'm like, usually if you already know it ain't cool, it ain't even necessary. I ain't got to smell this for you. Sometimes you do behaviors, you know you was wrong. Keep it 100. You know you was wrong. And then you're going to try to ask your friend, what you think about that? What would you think that was wrong? And they looking at you great, bruh. You ain't got to say nothing. They be like, bruh. Or sis, come on now. You know better. You know better. Some things you ain't gotta have no deep, analysis about. The fault in every character lies in not listening. Sometimes it's not listening to the elders. Your mom and them told you all kind of stuff. So don't go down there hanging out with them people.
Okay.
Don't go over there to that club. Don't go over to that juke joint. And sometimes they was right. Sometimes you just was like, I'm going anyway. I'm going to be careful, right? Your elders was telling you stuff. Think about all the things your elders told you that was on point. Ashe? The fault in every character lies in not listening. It don't say the fault in every character lies in not knowing. Because if you listen, you're going to know. If you listen. I ain't talking about just hearing stuff. See, I ancestors, man, our elders was wise. Because that whole thing about like, win in one ear and out the other. Remember that? When people tell you something like that? I told you something that went in one ear and out the other. And the idea was like it just went through there. It didn't get processed in your brain. It didn't get processed in your consciousness, in your ori, in your center of your spirit. It didn't get processed. It just, I said it to you and you did it anyway.
Okay.
See, that's a problem. When somebody tell you not to do something that's bad and you do it anyway, that's arrogance. That's ego. That's not being African. In African culture, you're supposed to listen. Ancestors said it 3,000 years ago. Surely the fault in every character lies in not listening.
Okay.
Not listening to our children. A lot of times your kids know what's up.
Yes.
The millennials know more than the baby boomers about certain things.
Yes.
They just do. They do.
Yeah.
Just like you know more about certain things as a middle-aged person than maybe, the elders who are in their 80s and 90s, because they haven't experienced it. Their world is different. The culture they came up in is a little different, right? You be like, I love the African stuff. They say, I don't know about no African. I ain't living in Africa. God bless you. The fault in every character lies in not listening. Sometimes you gotta listen for the divine in you. That's not something outside yourself. You are divinely created. You're a fragment of spirit manifested on earth. Why do you think God made you that way?
Okay.
The Most High gave you everything you need. It's in you. On purpose. You ain't missing nothing. You're perfect just the way you are. Now, your behavior might be out of order. Think about that. Your car, a brand new car generally is a good car. But if you put oil where the gas is supposed to be, that new car is not going to run very well. Ashe?
Ashe.
The Most High created you perfectly. And then you put stuff in you, you hearing this and seeing that and eating this and doing that, you messing it up. God didn't do that.
Yes, thank you. Thank
Phil
you.
Wilson used to have that show, he said, the devil made me do it. The devil made you do nothing. You chose that. Ashe?
Ashe.
I know I'm dating myself now. Look, your people like, who is it?
Geraldine?
Geraldine.
Yeah.
The fault in every character lies in not listening. Sometimes you gotta listen to spirit. You gotta get quiet. That's why you have meditation. That's why you have music. Let your mind, your spirit. That's why you have dreams. That's why sleep is so important. If you're not getting good sleep, you gotta work on it. Because your dream life is your other life. A lot of times you work stuff out in your sleep. This has happened to most people in this room. If you live long enough, you go to bed thinking about something, you wake up in the morning, so you feel a little bit more like clear. A little bit more satisfied with a decision that you have to make. So what are we called to do as we decide the future of our community? We got to get past the disappointment we might have with people. I've been very disappointed over the last 3 weeks.
Yes, yes.
I've heard grown people say some things I never thought I would hear them say. About children, about their peers, about each other.
Yes.
It's breaking my heart.
Yes, yes.
I thought we was further along than that.
Yes, yes, yes.
But I realized that as I look at my history, my culture, and what that history teaches me is that sometimes things are going great, and they're going great till they're not. Sometimes you thought things were going great, and you just was in a little delusional state.
Yep.
See, that's the thing, clarity. Like the clearness, the clear reality of things, the discernment. That's what Tahuti, that image of Tahuti and these images, that ibis-shaped beak, that masquerade, that mask that Netcher is wearing. It was about discernment because it goes into the muddy water. And it's like it has a little sieve on the end of its beak and it pulls out through the mud and the silt and all that. It pulls out the things that it needs. The small little fish and the bugs and things that they can provide their nutrition. Sometimes they have to have discernment. You have to be clear about what truth really is.
Okay.
You have to be clear about what righteousness is. You have to be clear about what harmony really looks like. Because there's a trueness in music. Like if the music is off, you immediately hear it. You might not be able to play a lick of music as a listener. But if something go off up here, oh yeah, we gonna know. We're gonna know it.
Yes.
Like that, yeah. I went to a Stevie Wonder concert at the Coliseum several years ago, and he was in the round. And Stevie, anybody ever went to see Stevie? Stevie performed for like 3 hours.
Yes.
He might take like 10-minute break or something.
Yes.
And about 2 hours in, and you know, I listen. One thing I do, I listen to stuff, right? I listen. My dad taught me, he's like, you want to be in music, I listen to music. He was a choir director. Y'all heard me say this before. My dad was like, everybody can sing, but some people shouldn't sing so loud. He listened. He lived for that note. But Stevie was playing, and then he hit like 2 hours in, he hit a note that wasn't what he wanted to play, and you could hear him say under his breath, he said, "Oh wow." Like he's just not used to playing no note wrong. He was like, he said, "Oh wow." He said, "Oh wow." I was like, Steve. And I was like, yeah, he was like, "Oh no, man." "Oh wow." And he went back and played, got it right? Y'all know that, like, the excellent musicians know that. Excellent human beings know that, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent Africans know that, too.
Yeah. Come on.
To
now.
be or not to be. To be African or not to be. That's the question. Are you going to be African the way Malcolm was African? Are you going to be African the way Harriet was African? You're going to be African the way Zora Neale Hurston was African. You're gonna be African the way your great grandma was probably African, making something happen out of nothing. You're gonna be African the way your great grandfather was, to come home after working all day and then work on the family garden too. You're gonna be African the way they was African? To be African or not to be. Surely, the fault in every character lies in not listening. Ashe. I'm going to invite you to stand with me if you would.